17,000 homes rose from the Long Island mud within 4 years, an outdoor assembly line churning out the American dream at record speed. But behind Levittown's perfect lawns hid an invisible cost, a labor force moving from job site to job site, building futures they could never fully claim. What does it mean when a suburb survives, but its workers' promises vanish? To answer that, we have to look at how Levittown rewrote the rules on work, home, and security in America. In the spring of 1947, Long Island's potato fields gave way to something never before seen in American home building. At dawn, the ground shook with the arrival of concrete trucks. Foundations were poured in rhythmic succession, each slab marking the start of a new home. The process unfolded not behind factory walls, but out in the open, across a checkerboard of thousands of empty lots. Levitt and Sons orchestrated the construction of Levittown like a ballet with 27 carefully choreographed steps. Each crew specialized in a single task: framing, roofing, wiring, plumbing, moving from house to house in a precise rotation. No one lingered. As soon as one job was finished, the team advanced to the next lot, rarely returning to the same home twice. The pace was relentless. Framing crews raised walls from pre-cut lumber, delivered just in time from the company's own supply yard. Electricians followed, threading wire through studs before drywall crews sealed the walls behind them. Every supply, every tool, every worker was scheduled to keep the line moving. North Shore Supply Company, located just half a mile from the site, kept enough pre-cut lumber on hand for 75 houses at any moment. Nails came from an on-site factory. Plumbing trees, pre-assembled pipes, arrived by truck and dropped into place within hours. Even appliances and kitchen cabinets were staged for rapid installation. The effect was staggering. By the summer of 1948, Levittown's outdoor assembly line was finishing up to 30 homes each day. At any given time, 100 houses stood in various stages of completion, each one a stop along a route that ran from raw earth to finished suburb. The homes themselves were modest, Cape Cods and ranches, about 800 square feet, built on concrete slabs with no basements or garages. But the speed and scale of production were unmatched. This relentless efficiency turned farmland into a suburban grid at a pace no traditional builder could match. The process relied on repetition, specialization, and timing, transforming home building into something closer to manufacturing than craft. As thousands of identical rooftops multiplied across the horizon, Levittown's assembly line logic set the stage for a new vision of American life, one built on the promise of speed, affordability, and the dream of home ownership for the masses. The end of World War II left the United States facing an acute housing shortage. 16 million veterans returned home, many with young families, and found cities overcrowded and rental prices rising. Levittown arrived as a direct answer to this crisis. For thousands of families, the prospect of a new home, affordable, modern, and within reach, was no longer a distant hope, but a real option. Federal policy played a decisive role. The GI Bill passed in 1944 guaranteed loans for returning servicemen, allowing them to buy homes with no down payment and low interest rates. Veterans Administration mortgages made monthly payments as low as $60 possible, matching or even beating the cost of renting a cramped apartment in the city. Advertisements from the era promised a fresh start, a house in Levittown complete with modern appliances and a yard, all for a price that seemed impossible just a few years earlier. The numbers tell the story. By 1951, Levitt and Sons had completed 17,447 homes on Long Island alone. each one built to a standardized plan that cut costs and eliminated delays. The scale of production meant materials could be bought in bulk and delivered just in time, reducing waste and keeping prices down. Every decision, from the use of concrete slabs to the exclusion of basements and garages, was calculated to shave dollars and days from the build. For many buyers, these homes represented more than shelter. They were a foothold in the middle class, a chance to build equity and stability after years of war and uncertainty. The streamlined process supported by government-backed financing turned the promise of home ownership into a mass market reality. Demand was overwhelming. On some days, hundreds of families lined up to sign contracts, eager to claim a piece of the new suburbia. Levittown's model proved that with the right combination of policy, production, and price, the American dream could be packaged and sold at scale. The relentless pace and uniformity of construction set the terms, but it was the affordability anchored by government support and efficient building that made Levittown possible for so many. The next challenge would come from the workers who built these homes, as questions about wages, job security, and the cost of speed began to surface. Levitt and Sons made a deliberate choice from the start. The construction of Levittown would happen without union labor. William Levitt argued that union rules, restrictions on who could perform each task, and requirements for additional staffing would threaten the speed and the affordability that defined the project. Crews were hired as subcontractors or day laborers, brought in for a specific job, then replaced as the outdoor assembly line moved forward. Brief pickets and protests flared in the late 1940s, but they faded quickly. The promise of steady work and the lure of a new home kept most hands on the job, even as the long-term costs went unspoken. For the builders, the work offered wages and pride. A composite worker might have been a returning veteran, strong from years in uniform, now pouring concrete or nailing roof shingles under the open sky. He earned enough to support his family, and sometimes dreamed of buying a house on the very street he helped create. But the job ended when the last lot was finished. There were no guarantees, no seniority, and no formal path to retirement. Union construction elsewhere meant more than higher pay. It brought access to multi-employer pension trusts, where every hour worked counted toward a future benefit, no matter which site or which contractor signed the check. In Levittown, that system was absent. No employer contributions, no portable credits, no pension plan at all. For these workers, the only safety net was Social Security, a baseline, not a full retirement. The gap was built into the model. Levitt and Sons provided no pension contributions, workers got wages and pride, but Social Security was their only retirement net. The outdoor assembly line delivered homes at record speed, but it left the builders with nothing to show for it but calloused hands and memories of a job well done. Levittown's blueprint spread far beyond Long Island. By the early 1950s, Levitt and Sons had replicated the model in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, carving new suburbs on open land with the same formula of rapid construction and standardized homes. By 1960, nearly one-third of Americans lived in suburbs, and the Levittown method, assembly line building, mass purchasing, and relentless efficiency, became the template for developers across the country. The grid of rooftops expanded, stretching over farmland and into the national imagination as the new normal. But the system's scale also made it fragile. In 1968, Levitt and Sons was sold to ITT Corporation for nearly $500 million in stock. The deal shifted control from a family-run operation to a sprawling conglomerate, and with it, the priorities changed. ITT managed Levittown and its offshoots, as one part of a vast portfolio. The close-knit crews that had built entire neighborhoods together were broken up. More subcontractors cycled through the sites, and the sense of loyalty between builder and project faded. The 1970s brought a quiet collapse in construction. There was no factory gate to lock, no single plant to close. Instead, the work simply dried up. Aging builders found themselves competing against younger, cheaper labor. Some tried to patch together enough jobs to get by, but the days of steady work were over. When Congress passed the Employee Retirement Income Security Act in 1974, it set new standards for private pensions, but offered no retroactive relief. Years spent building Levittowns counted for nothing. The retirement gap, once a distant risk, became reality. For the children of Levittown builders, the family home often became the only lasting asset. Equity in those modest houses, now worth far more than their original price, sometimes stood in for the pensions their parents never received. The pattern echoed what would later happen in the Rust Belt. Workers left behind by a system that valued speed and scale over long-term security. But here there was no shuttered factory, no rally at the gates. There were just quiet streets and the slow fading of names from memory. The houses endure, but the workers' security vanished with the last poured slab. Today, nearly half of U.S. private sector employees lack a workplace retirement plan. The suburban promise still stands, but only on foundations as strong as the protections we build for those who make them. Share your thoughts below.